Good morning, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us this morning. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone has been muted upon entry. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, though, please add them to the Q&A section in this Teams webinar. At the end of the presentation, we will be addressing any questions that come through the Q&A as well as any that get posted after the presentation. So I am Colleen Schills. I'm the Director of Customer Success Management here at Crestwood Associates. Been with Crestwood for over a decade, but I've been in this industry for over 20 years. And I'm excited to announce that with me today is Carlos Silva. He is one of our senior Business Central consultants on our Dynamics team. He joined Crestwood over a couple of years ago and has over 20 years of experience in the NAV, NAV, and BC space. So he definitely has his footprint in the arena of Business Central and what it means for clients today. He does work with our clients on a variety of Business Central projects with a particular interest in the financial and warehousing modules. And I'm really excited that he has offered to be on this webinar and joining me today. So thank you very much, Carlos. Again, just a friendly reminder to please add any questions to the Q&A and we will cover them at the end of the webinar. Today, Carlos will demonstrate how Business Central can manage fixed assets. I know it's just a topic that we all love to talk about, fixed assets. A lot of systems out there don't have the ability to track fixed assets within the financial application. So a lot of people are using outside systems, third-party tools, Excel spreadsheets, having their auditors and accounting firms track them for them. But the benefit with Business Central is that it resides all within one system. So you don't have to worry about an outside system to track your fixed assets. So in today's webinar, he's going to kind of showcase how we can create automated depreciation schedules, how tracking and maintaining assets throughout their life cycle, what that looks like. The goal is to enable informed purchasing decisions by using the reporting and analytics tool to evaluate asset value, performance, and long-term investment impact. So I'm really excited and looking forward to seeing these capabilities in action. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Carlos and he is going to take it from here. So Carlos, it's up to you to share your screen now.
Thank you, Colleen. Good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. There you go. You should be seeing my screen. It's the great Kronos company. We're going to look at fixed assets and kind of determine how it's set up in Business Central and kind of the ins and outs of fixed assets. So if you're in the Kronos company or if you're in Business Central, and I'm set up as a business manager role within Business Central. That's why my screen kind of looks like what it is. So I'll just search up on the upper right-hand bar for fixed assets. And when fixed assets comes up, it gives you the list of all the current fixed assets that are in the system, right, that you've already created. I have some in there that to kind of show different scenarios within Business Central. So if you look at that last one, it looks a little different than the ones above that because it says office laptop FA and the fixed asset number is FA 000-100. And the difference between that one and the ones above that is, if you notice, the acquisition or the acquired flag is checked. That way you know it has a book value. It's been acquired. So if I dive into that particular fixed asset, you see some of the important information on this fixed asset. And one thing that I like to stress is fixed asset is a great module within Business Central that I don't think a lot of clients take advantage of. Like Colleen was saying, that a lot of the fixed assets sometimes is handling outside of Business Central and maybe spreadsheets, and then you just do journal post within the system. But fixed assets is a great module to kind of keep track on that equipment whether it be tangible, intangible, to see the book value, is a depreciation, if there's some sort of maintenance that's been done to that fixed asset, all that can be tracked within Business Central. So in here on the fixed asset card, I have on top just the general information of this particular fixed asset, right? It just tells us the description, whether it's a tangible or intangible, and you can define some of these class codes. And below that, there's a subclass code as equipment, and then the location where this equipment is usually is at. In this particular case, it's in the administration department. But the great thing about this fixed asset is then you can also assign different dimensions, right? And if you're familiar with Business Central and dimensions, you can assign those dimensions, per your fixed asset, right? Whether this is in this particular case, maybe this is or setting it to an area or business group or customer group or maybe even a department, right? And then that dimension flows with that fixed asset as you create different acquisition cost or depreciation costs. All that flows into your chart of accounts, right? So up here you have the general information of the fixed asset, the serial number, like I said, the posting groups, and then you have the depreciation book. In this particular case, you can have multiple depreciation books. You can have different types of depreciation methods. In this case, I made it pretty generic, plain and simple, where the depreciation on this one is set to a straight line, which is just your basic depreciation, but you have other depreciation methods here. And if some of these maybe aren't what you are needing, you can also have that user-defined depreciation, which is more specific to maybe a certain area or certain localization of depreciation within your area that you want to depreciate with. And then here you also have the starting date of the depreciation. That's usually similar to the acquisition date. And then you have the book value. And then you can dive into why that book value right now is at 2443. I can dive into it and it says, okay, make this a little bigger. In this particular case, the acquisition cost was at 2,500, and then I've depreciated 1 month, right? So that 1 month or the 41 days depreciation is at $57, right? So in this particular fixed asset, I'm depreciating it for 5 years, right? And the ending depreciation date would be in March 19th, 2030. And I kind of put some of the depreciation for next month just to kind of show you how it would look in Business Central, where you have the acquisition cost and then you have the depreciated amount, right? So if you had this office laptop for maybe a year, then you would see the depreciation cost monthly in this particular case, or however you depreciate it, maybe every quarter or every half year, right? So you would see that depreciation costs roll in through the Office laptop on these ledger entries. And that all, of course, all this flows into your chart of accounts, your GL entries, in the specified GL accounts you've set up. So going back over here, let's go ahead and create one, right? Very easy. You hit plus on the new. You can tab through this. It gives you that next number in the number series, and then you can type in the description. Just type in kind of generic there, laptop number 2, and then I can define the class code, and that class code is a tangible, right? And then I can define the subclass, and I'm calling this an equipment. And then I can also define, like I said earlier, where this particular laptop is. Let's say it's for sales, the sales building. That's it. You've defined now your first fixed asset, right? So now here at the bottom, you have the depreciation method, right? So this depreciation method, when you run the depreciation schedule, is where it's kind of trigger what's the next step. But right now, of course, I'm not able to do a depreciation because there's no book value. There's no initial acquisition cost. So that first thing I need to do is set up my acquisition, acquire the equipment. So let's go over to fixed asset journal. So notice there's 2 fixed asset journals. One is just fixed asset journals and one is fixed asset GL journals. The difference between the two is your fixed asset GL journal posts not only in your fixed asset entries, but also into your chart of accounts or into your GL entries. Whereas the fixed asset journal just posts into your fixed asset entries. That way, in some situations, maybe you're starting off this fixed asset, mid depreciation, meaning you've depreciated somewhere else, and now you're just trying to continue to depreciate it in Business Central. That's where you need to set up some of these acquisition costs in the system before you can start doing the depreciation. So I'll go ahead and click on fixed asset GL journals. So I'll put the acquisition date here, and I'll just put today's date. And then I'm given here the account type, and the account type is a fixed asset. And the one I'm trying to acquire, the one I've acquired, is the second one. And then I can put in my acquisition costs. Maybe it was a nice laptop at $3,000. And then what's the balancing account? Maybe if there's a balancing fixed asset account. So I think my fixed asset range in the 12,000 series. So here it is, computer, and now I can post. And of course, we'll get there. Give me 1 second. Oh, sorry. The more important thing that I did forget is the acquisition cost, right? So you're telling this this line here that you're acquiring it. What is it doing, right? So in this particular case, it's acquiring that acquisition cost. And the nice thing, I should have looked on the right side. You see the current line if it found an issue, right? So if I take this away, right, it kind of gives me that issue here. It says, hey, you're missing the FA posting type. So I set that. If I come back to that line, notice that there's no issue found, so now I can post this. And then posting, remember, this is also tied to maybe any workflows that you might have in place. So if you have a workflow that requires approval for, let's say, journal batches, right, then it would go through that approval process before it could post. So the line's posted, right? So now I can go into this fixed asset 110. And in here now I have a book value, right? Now it has a book value of $3,000, and I can dive into that. And here is the acquisition of it. Now I'm able to depreciate it, right? So now I can start my depreciation. Let's say today, since it's the first day I've acquired it, I'm going to depreciate it for, let's say, 5 years, and that's depending on whatever your controller or your finance department says that acquisition needs to be, or that depreciation needs to be. So now that's all you need to do. You've set the date you want to start the depreciation, and then you also set the number of years that depreciation needs to flow to. In this case, it's flowing to all the way to 2030. So now you're done with setting up the fixed asset. You're done with entering the acquisition cost. Now, at this point, you can run monthly depreciations for one item or for multiple items. So the way I would do that is within actions, other, and there's a calculate depreciation. Here, I can give it my fixed, my document number. Let's say I want to maybe just put depreciation for May, and I'm going to change this posting to May. To the end of the month, right? And here I can specify if I just want to depreciate one item, I can put in the item, or I can also put in a range if I wanted to just depreciate a range of those items, right? Or if you leave this blank, it'll depreciate everything it can, right? So if I'll leave it blank and say what happens, say okay. So it says 2 lines were created, right? Do you want to open up that fixed asset GL journal window? And I say yes. So now here we have, notice two depreciations. That first one is for that first item that I had created earlier, since that one's only $42. And the reason why, because it tells you over here to the right, here goes, number of appreciation days, right? So in this particular case, I had already depreciated for April, right, for that particular item. So now the depreciation for May is just for 1 month. Whereas that second item, right, the 110, right, it's higher, it's at 118 because you're depreciating in this case for 71 days, which would be um, part of March, all of April, and all of May. So now I can post this, and that's done. So now I can go into that fixed asset. Let's go that the one we just created, that 110. And now I see that my book value is at 282, right? $2,882. And if I go into it, it tells you, okay, it's had the acquisition cost of 3,000 and the depreciation cost of 118. So that brings that total of 2882. And if we look at the other one, so you can see the one with multiple depreciations, now the book value is at 2,401. And if I dive into this book value, right? So now I see that that first depreciation was for $57 because it started on March 20th. And so it would have been those 2 weeks in March plus the month of April, right? So now that was 57. And the additional one we just did, right, for 30 days is at $42. So like I was saying, you can depreciate it on a monthly basis, maybe a month in process, or I know some clients that are depreciating their materials on a quarterly, right? Depending how your requirements are, you would follow that step, right? And it's easy. You can the depreciation once you've set that depreciation method on the items, all you have to do is run the calculate depreciation. And the nice thing about this is you can even put this calculate depreciation maybe on a job schedule so that it runs on a monthly basis for you on a quarterly basis. Or if you want that, it's sometimes I know some controllers would want to have that control and run the depreciation as they need it on their month-end process. So that's where you would go. And again, it would run it for the depreciation for all your items, and it would create that batch for you to then post that batch in that fixed asset GL journal batch. So on the item itself, we also can document or can also put various costs, right? Let's say there's maintenance. You can specify who maybe your maintenance is done through for this particular item. Maybe you use, in this, for example, for this case, it's a laptop. Maybe you use Dell, right? So you can create Dell as a vendor and then associate Dell here. That way, when you create a purchase order, it can then tie in to that particular item and log the maintenance. But you can also, in the fixed asset GL journal, right? You can also, when you flag that fixed asset here, let's say laptop, you can say the posting that I want to do is maintenance, right? So that would put that maintenance cost to that laptop, right? So that way you can run reports to see if maybe that laptop is going to the shop more often than not, so that you want to kind of flag those things, right? Kind of understand the life cycle of that laptop. So understanding then reports within Business Central as far as your ROI, your financials on that particular investments that you have on your fixed asset. There's several options. So under always find it here. Let's see. Here you go. So under reports, you have I have this one highlighted, right? So I can analyze my fixed asset, and it kind of gives me that view, right? In this particular case, it shows all my fixed assets. I can filter my list here, and I can see my depreciation costs, my acquisition costs at a view. Then I can export this to Excel to understand, hey, you know what, was this investment a good idea, or was there some sort of maybe a bad bad laptop that I received that's causing more of an issue than the actual laptop, right? So that's where you can start making those analyses, right? And then you can run various reports. You can see details. If I go into highlight one, if I hit details, I can then run that details report to kind of give you similar to this. That's all that report is. This gives you it nice in a analysis view that you can then kind of create some pivot tables out of in Business Central. Let's see here. Again, you have these reports, projected value. If I dive into the fixed asset, you can also have, let's see here. There's one that I had. Let me find it. Here it is, stats. So under fixed asset, under statistics, you can see in this particular case, I had some maintenance, right? So on this laptop, I put some maintenance cost, right? So you can see at a snapshot when it was acquired, the total depreciation, and then maintenance costs, right? So you can understand, hey, there's more, maybe there's more maintenance costs. The initial value of the laptop, maybe it's time to kind of replace that laptop. So that's where you would kind of make some analysis on determining on that fixed asset whether it was a good investment or the ROI on it. So I would like to, I guess, open up the floor for any questions.
All right, Carlos. We do have a question that came through, and let me get it for you. So hold on one second because my screen just decided to kind of go a little crazy on me. What if you have an existing fixed asset that you have depreciated in another system and you're migrating over to BC fixed assets? How can you start the depreciation with the proper value?
Right, perfect. So one thing that we kind of identified earlier is the fixed asset, uh, let's see, journal. So you have that fixed asset journal and the fixed asset GL. The thing with this is that we need to identify what can be posted to GL and what cannot be posted to GL. So typically what we do is on this, let me go back to my card over here. On this company depreciation, and I can edit this. Notice that we have here GL cost. So typically when we set up a client that has maybe some fixed asset that have already been depreciated in a different ERP, we would flag maybe the depreciation, I'm sorry, the acquisition costs and the depreciation costs as don't post to the GL, right? Because we want it to first post just to the fixed asset journals or fixed asset entries using the fixed asset journals without impacting the GL because the GL usually had already taken that impact. So we would unflag those two, make the acquisition costs just to the fixed asset entries, and then make the depreciation up to the point that it was depreciated, and then turn these flags back on, and then continue the depreciation going forward with allowing it to post the GL now. So that's how you would handle those mixed scenarios where an item has been depreciated in an outside system, and you just want to carry it forward within Business Central.
Nice, nice. And this is another question that came through, but I'm assuming the answer is yes, but wanted to validate before I responded yes, is that if a client isn't using fixed assets today and wants to implement, we would be able to help them and provide like a data import table to get their old, their existing fixed assets, into a template to be able to import so they're not having to manually enter all of these.
Yes, and that is a definite yes. And the reason why I
Okay,
say that is, well, the reason I say that is because, like I said, some clients, usually do the depreciation in Excel or outside, and then kind of do journal entries. And I kind of want to kind of make a case for using it within Business Central because it has a lot of tools that allow you to easily manage those fixed assets.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes total sense. If we can have it all in one system, right? One system of truth is what we like to say here in at Crestwood. So I'm going to go ahead then, and thanks for all of the useful information that you presented. And I'm going to share my screen again. And a little bit, let's see, we want to go to, we did the live presentation. Thank you very much for that. We've covered some Q&A and appreciate for everybody's input and questions. So, let's just kind of recap. We looked at automating depreciation schedules. We talked about asset life cycles and how to manage that within Business Central. And we dove into some data content and how we can get, the information in the system. Crestwood definitely can help in those areas. But what do you need to know, or what do you do if you need more now? Just contact your customer success manager at Crestwood. Our team is here to help you, and we can get you set up and connected with Carlos and some of our other consultants on the BC side to help you get fixed assets implemented in the proper way, so that way you're making sure that your depreciation is securely managed and we're depreciating the right amounts moving forward. But yeah, we're here to help. And Carlos, thank you so much for the information. Appreciate it. And to everybody attending our webinar today, thank you for taking the time out of your morning, and hope you all have a great day. Thank you very much.